2024 Uncut. AI in media, empower or devour. So this is our final presentation. It is going to be controversial. There are going to be some of you in the room who probably hate me by the end of this, but there are going to be others who love me, so I don't care. But it's going to be an honest breakdown of what's going on in the media space and also the arguments about using Gen AI within this space as well. So, are we ready? Yes, okay. Bit of background on me. So I've been in the AI space for over a decade now. I actually am an advisor in the UK for Innovate UK, which is a government body that supports businesses with competitions, for example, funding competitions. And they have a Bridge AI component, which is all around helping businesses to adopt AI. I also work as an advisor to VRT and Future Media Hubs. VRT being the Belgian broadcaster, and Future Media Hubs being a collection of 50 plus public service broadcasters, who all work together on technology. There is a new hub, all dedicated to AI and immersive text. That's what I'm helping them with. I've been in the sector for so long. There's been patented AI for content moderation. Worked on AI, multimodal AI before it was a well-known thing that we've had this year. And I've also dedicated a lot of time to AI standards because I do care about the misuse, for example, of personal data in some of the models. And then also I've done a lot of work in AI films, which I'll come back to later. What I'm going to do today to make it easy for everyone to kind of digest everything is I've broken it down into a tech traffic light. You've got the AI positive developments, followed by the AI challenges, followed by significant problems. And we will go through all of them today. So, without further ado, content creation. Content creation, I mean, a lot of people are aware of all the tools. I liked the slide in the previous presentation with all the different tools up there. I thought that was very helpful. But this market is predicted to grow significantly. Currently, we have roughly 34 million images being generated a day. That's 30 billion images in total since generative AI image creators came out, which is quite a lot. And the quality, even from last year to this year, is a significant leap. So this image was generated in October 2023 using the latest model at the time, Midjourney. And it had the same prompt as this particular image generated by Flux 1.1 that's just been released in October 2024. And if you look at the detail there, it's getting more and more realistic in these models. So they are improving significantly year on year. It's so much so that there's a lot of people on LinkedIn that either love AI or hate it. There's not really any in between. And there was this gentleman, and he was causing me a lot of fuss. And he was like, "Oh, these models are terrible. You can always tell it's an AI-generated image." So I thought, well, I'm going to trick him. So I said, "OK, tell me, which of those two images is AI-generated and which one isn't?" Because he said he was an expert. And he said, "Oh, well, it's clearly the second one. The second one is a photo. The first one's AI-generated." The answer is they're both AI-generated. So, it is getting to the point where it's very, very difficult now to tell the difference between a photograph and an AI-generated image, which brings its own problems. And that's why there's content initiatives to kind of prove where the image came from, because you can imagine, certainly in a political setting, very tricky if you get images generated that look very, very real. And then we move on to music. So Gen AI music, one of the more controversial sectors, I would say. But by 2025, $6 billion, and I imagine it's going to become one of the biggest spaces. If you see the trajectory of Suno and Udio and how they've developed so quickly, I imagine this space is only going to continue to grow in importance. And we've gone from instrumental generation in 2023 to full song generation in 2024. It's been that quick. And this is just an example of something I put together. Volume.
Faces likes more than Dutch ride bikes. She needs attention to feel a connection. Look at her socials and her life is heaven, yet behind it all it's a false impression. Sets the straps throughout her day. With every approval she drifts away. Like a detective searching for affection. She's chasing hearts in every direction. Her pulse must go viral or she begins to spiral. She begins to spiral. Tap, tap, swipe, swipe.
So I think that pretty much sums up Gen Z. But anyway, moving on. You know, the quality of these tools is getting better and better. And interestingly enough, I put together that video maybe around the summertime, and you'll see I did a video with the EBU this September, and the quality of the tools has come on so much for video quality now. It's insane. The other thing is audio. And this is related to speech and cloning people's voices. And again, we've seen a massive leap forward. I did this video to really wind up the BBC, because I had to do a presentation for them. But here we go. And you need the volume.
Three great hornbills sit in solemn assembly, their vivid plumage a stark contrast against the dense canopy. Their tranquil repose is soon enlivened by the arrival of the mythical gliders, or paper-plane birds, embarking on their annual pilgrimage to these hallowed grounds. With wings folded in delicate precision, these fantastical avians glide silently through the air, converging on Borneo in a spectacle of aerial grace. Beneath the aerial dance of the gliders, the submerged city of Atlantis stirs to life, hosting the grand assembly of the fish kingdom. Here, amidst ancient ruins, fish of every hue gather to deliberate on pressing matters, their most urgent agenda being the rise of AI and its impact on their creative vocations.
And so really, I created that video to point out the potential problems as well with the fact that you could just clone someone's voice. And the fact that at the moment, in most territories, there isn't really any way of copywriting your voice, even if you're a famous actor or actress. And so it raised some really interesting questions. And you probably saw Scarlett Johansson pushing back on OpenAI when they didn't get permission from her, so they thought, well, you know what, actually, we're just going to create a voice that sounds like you anyway, which isn't really the point. And so they got in quite a bit of trouble for trying to do that. And it just really brings up ethical questions, responsible questions that haven't necessarily been needed to be discussed before. And then Gen AI video. So these days, 44% of marketers are using Gen AI video, and it's largely for social media posts because they don't need to worry so much about it looking professional content, because it's more personalized content, it's quick content that they're absorbed through TikTok or other platforms, and so they can really utilize these tools to quickly produce content at a much lower cost and produce more of it. Also, the interesting thing is, last year, I produced a film called AI Awakened, which was all about these tools and how they might develop. And the interesting thing is that I entered it into competitions that were not AI film contests. And it won a lot. And so it just goes to show that even though the technology at the moment is really, I would say, aimed at amateurs, you can create really incredible things with it, and you can win awards for various things. I mean, the film itself, sound effects, all of the aspects of it that were AI generated can be seen as a valuable addition to the sector. The other thing that I was going to quickly show you on video generation is this image. That same image has been used with the video models of last year and the video models of this year. And I just wanted to show you the quick difference between them. So when you generated an image before, it was very, very short. It was like 2 to 3 seconds. Now, you can create a clip of up to 10 seconds of really high quality movement. And so we've seen a significant shift. When I created that initial film, AI Awakened, I was having to deal with 2 to 3 second clips and stitch them all together. Now you get 10-second clips, which obviously saves a lot of time and a lot of effort. Multimodal AI. So multimodal systems, we're seeing an increasing number of multimodal solutions, whether that's combining various tools together to make it easier for people to access them, or looking at companies like OpenAI, where they've kind of turned ChatGPT from this large language model into actually an ecosystem that's kind of driven by the large language model. So the large language model now can access, it's almost a user interface for all these other AI models that they've attached to it. And so it's really changing the way that people utilize and engage with these tools. And that comes onto workflow efficiency, because I think if you think about LLMs in their most basic form, they're probably not that useful to companies on their own. However, if you integrate them with other AI solutions and use them as an interface, a smart interface for people to engage with, you can get a lot of value out of it. So it's finding the right places for this technology to sit. with that band, the interesting thing is, I obviously don't have time to manage their social media, so I let them do it themselves. So the Feekers who you saw in that video clip, they actually manage their own Twitter account. They post up on there, sorry, X. On We Are the Feekers, they actually post images. It's all automated. They decide where they're playing concerts. They decide what they're drumming on each day. They decide what they're doing, and they post up about it. And it's all automated through the Zapier workflow. So I have no control over it, but it's quite interesting to see what they get up to. And it just shows you can now automate workflows in that way as well. So some of the challenges, product management, it seems to have been thrown out the window the past couple of years. I remember when I used to have to go and pitch products to boards and spend months going through really inane processes to get most basic products signed off. And yet, a lot of companies suddenly went, oh, Gen AI, millions of pounds, here you go, here you go, here you go, without even thinking about how it fit with the business objectives. And I think that is a core message that I hope people take away from today if they are businesses thinking about using Gen AI or traditional models of AI, that they actually go back to the product management basics and thinking about how and what value they want from these tools, because then you can formulate a plan that's logical and it's much easier to show that the value you're getting from it. Skills gaps. This is a really big one. I know a lot of governments around the world are creating programs to try and address this, but it's also fair to say that a lot are not. And as a society, we almost have a duty to try and help each other through this. 54% of employees require training to adapt to AI, according to the World Economic Forum, and that is not a small number. I suspect, actually, with the speed of progress of these tools, that percentage will be much higher next year. And so we need to really think about how we can help people to adapt to the changing environment around them. Data issues. So in media and entertainment alone, the vast majority of data is unstructured. And yes, the way that AI tools are developing, it means that there is an opportunity to utilize them to try and deal with it and get more value out of that unstructured data. But in general, it's a real challenge because it means that you've got data in silos, you're not getting the most out of it. A lot of it is video data, and that makes it very expensive and tricky to deal with. Legal ambiguity. So I'm not going to go into all 32 lawsuits that currently are in place around Gen AI, but it's fair to say that it's an interesting space at the moment with all the different legal suits, which largely are in the US, around the way that some of these models have been trained. And we move on to the ethical concerns around licensing. I actually conducted a creative industry AI study last year and found that 85% of creatives thought they should be compensated if their works are used within these models. And I think there's two responses to that. There's either that you agree that everyone should be compensated for the use of their works when they're in these models, or you look at it from the perspective of, well, when you ask that question, people are always going to want money, especially people who are not necessarily getting that much money from their works anyway. And then also, Gen AI is transformative. And so if it's not reproducing that work, why should they get paid for it in the first place? And those are the two contradictory arguments. So you've got, the for using unlicensed data. Well, it's fair use, which, yes, we don't have in the EU, but we do have in the US. It prevents monopolization, because if you brought in strict rules around licensing, startups pretty much would be cut out of this space because they wouldn't be able to afford to innovate in this space. Encourages innovation, promotes diversity. It gives. There's a lot of arguments in the for category, but then there's also arguments in the against as well, such as the fact that they want to protect creators' rights, which I think is important. And I actually believe there is a compromise. I think that there is a way we can support creatives from the output if their names are used within models, all that sort of stuff. And I think that neither one is completely right. And that is where I get a lot of abuse online, because people don't like people who sit on the fence. But I'm not sitting on the fence. I just genuinely believe that there is a middle ground to be achieved here, because I don't want further monopolization of this sector and the most powerful technology too. And this is where it comes back to this as well, which some of you may disagree with me on, but there's a company like an organization called Fairly Trained that have tried to say, oh, if you're a company that uses licensed data, then your model should get a Fairly Trained sign, and that's the best way forward. You're doing the right thing, you're ethical. Problem with that, what happens if they license the data from a company that have sourced that data unethically? Oh, you still get a Fairly Trained sign, but actually it's not that fairly trained. And so there's a big flaw in it on the basis that a lot of companies that own big data sets have got them labeled abroad in third world countries, exploiting labor to do it. And so if you are training a model on that, that doesn't mean it's fairly trained. And then there's also moral absolutism of things like the AI Song Contest, where they said, oh, you know what? We're going to allow pretty much every other AI tool, but we're not going to allow Suno and Udio because the big record labels are suing them. And it doesn't matter if ChatGPT and stuff use use unlicensed data, but Suno and Udio we're not happy with. You can't do that. I'm sorry, that's just not okay. You need to have consistent policies, and you also need to make sure that you don't oversimplify the ethical debate. For something like the AI Song Contest, there was an opportunity there to actually be part of the debate, to enable the use of all of these tools and to really assess what people can do now and what the conversation should be around that. But unfortunately, it was a missed opportunity on their part. And then there's growing polarization with this thing that I get all the time. You aren't as creative as me because you use AI. And that really drives me mad because, first of all, AI in songwriting, been around since 2001. A lot of tools are available that many professional songwriters use that have AI in them, and they don't necessarily realize it. And then if you look at music production, for example, this is just Ableton's tool. How many AI tools are actually built in already? This is prior to Gen AI that generate drums, that sort out the tempo of your track, that automate the pitch of it, that make sure everything sounds really good. And then if you look at professional cameras, these days, deep learning is used in all of the main professional cameras. And so therefore, they optimize the images that are taken. As a photographer, you just need to point and shoot. So you're saying to me that you can copyright an image where I've just gone ding, but you can't copyright a image that you've generated and spent hours thinking about a prompt for, potentially optimizing that prompt, potentially using other images to train a custom model. It's really drives me a little bit nuts when people are acting like that. And then, there's photo editing software as well. There's graphic design, there's animation. All of these things have used artificial intelligence for many years and don't necessarily realize it. And so I got very frustrated, and I was talking to the EBU, and they gave me an opportunity to do something for IBC. And I thought, well, you know what? Actually, I'm going to create a Eurovision song, and we're going to use the latest tools, and we're going to see what we end up with. And this is it. So I hope you enjoy it. If you're a Eurovision fan, I hope you can see all 35 references to different Eurovision songs.
I'm the underdog from a country you can't pronounce, with a sob story so tragic even Johnny Logan would bounce. Lost my dignity in a freak glitter explosion. Now I'm here to win with Lorene's moves in slow motion. Wind machines on turbo, my hair's defying gravity. Pyrotechnics set to fuego, pray for my longevity. The lyrics are nonsense, but who cares, it's all for show. We're Burka silver boots, still the glow. Good at tsunami, present show. We're drowning in sequence tonight. Good at tsunami, feel, boom, let up and riding waves of disco light. From London to Melbourne, we're all going insane. In this Marcus Lennox glad, Mona's gonna prove her fame. Good at tsunami, let it wash over you. Our use glitzy stew. My backup dancers, just a troupe of acrobatic goats. They form human pyramids while I hit concerto notes. Got more key changes than Salvador has feelings, and a gimmick wilder than Nemo's good wheelings. Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed members of the EBU, prepare for a spectacle that'll make Morty seem subdued. Where Netta's chicken dance meets Haktari's wildest schemes, and Ryback's fairy tale violin haunts all our dreams. Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed members of the EBU, prepare for a spectacle that'll make Morty seem subdued. Where Netta's chicken dance meets Haktari's wildest schemes, and Ryback's fairy tale violin haunts all our dreams. Key change. Behold, as I felt a note so high it cracks the crystal mic. While my goats form the Eurovision heart, a sight you'll surely like a satellite. LED screens flash messages to vote or else. As I warble about love, transcending Brexit itself. With a tsunami, I'm on Isaac show. We're drowning in sequence tonight. With a tsunami, yeah, boom, bada bad, riding waves of disco light. From London to Malmo, we're all going insane in the sparkly spandex clad monoskin approved refrain. Glitter tsunami, let it wash over you. Our abuse glitzy stew. From Buck's fizz skirt, ripped in epic sax guy's groove. We've seen it all, yet every May we still approve. So text your votes now before Bjorkman intervenes in this glitter tsunami, where camp reigns supreme. Glitter tsunami, amor, Isaac show. We're drowning in sequence tonight. Glitter tsunami, yeah, boom, bada bad, riding waves of disco light. From London to Malmo, we're all going insane in this sparkly spandex clad monoskin approved refrain. Glitter tsunami, let it wash over you. Our abuse glitzy stew.
Okay. And so, I think that's a good way to end. But what I would say is that I am, again, conducting a creative industry AI study, and it would be great if all of you would be happy to do it. So please do fill it out. It's just at ciai.study. It's asking the same questions as last year, and what I'm doing is tracking perceptions from creatives. So all of the data I normally make available for free through my social media, LinkedIn, everything like that. So it's just really an interesting way to keep track of perceptions of this technology. But thank you very much for today. Really hope you enjoyed the Mediaverse experience. And yeah, enjoy the rest of World AI Summit today too. So thank you very much. Cheers.